Welcome to my channel. Have you ever looked at a simple 1-cent United States America coin and wondered if it could be hiding a story that most people never notice? Today, we have 3 fascinating pennies. At first glance, they may seem ordinary, but every coin carries its own history, its own journey, and its own mystery. These small pieces of metal have traveled through countless hands, witnessed different eras, and survived the passage of time. As we take a closer look in slow motion, pay attention to every detail, every mark, and every year, because one of these coins might be more interesting than you think. Let's get started. In the summer of 1971, deep inside a crowded pocket somewhere in America, a brand new penny began a journey nobody could have imagined. Freshly struck at the Denver Mint, the small copper-colored coin sparkled under the sunlight. It was just a 1-cent coin to most people, but its adventure was only beginning. A young boy received the coin as change after buying a cold drink from a neighborhood store. He looked at the shiny penny for a moment before slipping it into his pocket. For days, the coin traveled with him through parks, school hallways, and busy city streets. Slowly, the bright shine began to fade. Tiny scratches appeared on its surface. Each mark became a silent reminder of a place it had been and a hand it had passed through. Months turned into years. The 1971 D penny moved from one wallet to another. It rode inside cash registers, rested in glass jars, and disappeared into couch cushions before finding its way back into circulation again. Then came a surprising moment. One rainy evening, the coin slipped from a man's pocket and rolled across a wet sidewalk. It spun faster and faster before finally stopping near a storm drain. For a few seconds, it seemed the penny's journey was over. But fate had other plans. A passerby noticed the small coin glistening under a streetlight. Curious, he picked it up and placed it safely in his pocket. Once again, the little penny escaped being lost forever. As the years passed, America changed. New cars appeared on the roads. New buildings rose into the sky. New generations grew up. Yet the small 1971 D penny continued traveling through history. Sometimes it spent months forgotten in a drawer. Other times it changed hands several times in a single day. It witnessed celebrations, ordinary purchases, and countless everyday moments that nobody would remember. Decade after decade, the coin survived. Its once bright surface became darker. The edges softened. The signs of age became impossible to ignore. But those changes only made the penny more interesting. Every scratch told a story. Every mark hinted at a journey. Every year added another chapter. Then, many years later, a coin collector discovered the old penny among a group of forgotten coins. At first, it seemed ordinary. But the collector paused. He examined the date, 1971. He noticed the small, D, mint mark, showing it had been struck in Denver. Suddenly, the penny was no longer just spare change. It had become a tiny survivor from another era. The collector carefully placed the coin under a light and studied every detail. He imagined the countless places it had traveled and the people who had carried it over the decades. What stories could it tell if it could speak? How many miles had it traveled? How many pockets, purses, and cash registers had it visited? Those questions remained unanswered, and that mystery became part of the coin's charm. Today, the 1971 D 1-cent coin continues to fascinate collectors and history lovers alike. Not because it is made of precious metal, and not because it is worth millions, but because it represents a piece of everyday American history frozen in time. A small coin, a long journey, a lifetime of stories, and somewhere out there, another 1971 D penny may still be traveling from hand to hand, quietly adding new chapters to its incredible adventure. The story of this coin is not just about 1 cent, it is about time itself. The year was 1973. Across America, millions of pennies were being produced at the Denver Mint. Among them was one small coin that looked exactly like the others, a 1973 D Lincoln cent. No one knew that this tiny piece of copper would begin a journey lasting decades. Fresh from the mint, the coin shined like gold under the bright factory lights. Every detail was sharp. Every edge was perfect. It was ready to enter the world. The penny soon found its way into circulation. A cashier handed it to a customer, who dropped it into his pocket without even looking at it. For most people, it was just 1 cent. But for the coin, the adventure had just begun. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The little 1973 penny traveled through busy cities, quiet towns, gas stations, grocery stores, and restaurants. It passed from hand to hand, silently witnessing thousands of moments in people's lives. One cold evening, the penny was used to buy a newspaper. The next day, it helped pay for a cup of coffee. A week later, it sat forgotten at the bottom of a child's piggy bank. Its journey never stopped. Years passed. The shine that once covered the coin slowly disappeared. Tiny scratches began appearing across its surface. Each mark represented another chapter in its story. Then came a moment that nearly ended everything. One windy afternoon, the penny slipped from a man's pocket while he crossed a busy street. It bounced once, twice, then rolled toward a storm drain. The coin spun in circles. Closer, closer, and closer. For a brief second, it seemed certain that the penny would disappear forever. But fate had other plans. A young girl noticed the flashing copper color near the curb. She quickly reached down and picked up the coin just before it could vanish. The penny's journey continued. As the decades moved forward, America changed around it. New cars appeared. New technologies arrived. New generations grew up. Yet the little 1973 penny remained. Sometimes it rested for years inside old jars. Sometimes it traveled hundreds of miles inside wallets and purses. Nobody paid much attention to it. Nobody knew where it had been. Nobody knew what stories it carried. Then, one day, a collector opened an old box of coins inherited from a family member. Among hundreds of ordinary coins, one penny caught his attention. The date read 1973. Below the date was a small letter. D. The Denver Mint mark. The collector carefully lifted the coin under a lamp. The scratches, the color, the worn surfaces, every detail hinted at a long and mysterious past. He wondered how many people had held it, how many cities it had visited, how many stories it had silently witnessed. The coin could not answer. Its secrets remained locked within the metal itself. And perhaps that is what makes old coins so fascinating. They are more than money. They are time travelers. Small pieces of history that continue to survive long after the moments they witnessed have disappeared. Today, the 1973 1-cent coin remains a favorite among collectors and history lovers. Not because it is rare beyond imagination, but because every surviving coin carries a unique journey that can never be repeated. A simple penny, a lifetime of adventures, and a mystery that continues with every new owner. The story of this 1973 penny is still being written, one chapter at a time. It was the year 1977. America was changing. New technologies were appearing. Cities were growing. Millions of people were living their everyday lives without realizing that a small coin was about to begin an extraordinary journey. Deep inside the mint, a brand new 1977 Lincoln penny emerged from the presses. Bright, shiny, perfect. The coin reflected the factory lights like a tiny mirror. At that moment, it was identical to millions of other pennies produced that year. Yet its story was destined to become unique. Soon, the penny was packed with thousands of others and sent into circulation. Its first adventure began when it landed in the cash register of a small grocery store. A customer received it as change and dropped it into his pocket. The journey had officially begun. Days passed. The penny traveled through crowded streets, busy restaurants, and local shops. It listened silently as people talked about their dreams, their families, and their futures. The coin could not speak, but it remembered everything, every hand, every place, every moment. Years passed like pages turning in a book. The once bright penny slowly changed. Tiny scratches appeared. The color darkened. The edges softened. Each mark became proof of another chapter in its incredible journey. Then came a day that changed everything. One afternoon, while being counted among several coins, the 1977 penny slipped from a table. It hit the floor, rolled across the room, and disappeared beneath an old wooden cabinet. Darkness, silence, dust. For years, the coin remained trapped. Forgotten, hidden from the world. Seasons came and went. People moved in and out of the house. The cabinet stayed in place. And the penny waited, year after year, waiting for someone to find it. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the cabinet was finally moved during a renovation. A beam of sunlight reached the dusty floor. For the first time in years, the penny saw light again. A worker spotted the coin and picked it up. "What an old penny," he said. Just like that, the adventure continued. The penny returned to circulation. Back into pockets. Back into stores. Back into the endless flow of everyday life. As the decades passed, the world transformed around it. Telephones became smaller. Computers became common. The internet connected people across the globe. Yet the little 1977 penny survived through it all. Sometimes it spent months forgotten in a drawer. Other times it changed hands several times in a single day. Nobody knew where it had been. Nobody knew what it had witnessed. The coin carried its secrets silently. Then came another unexpected twist. One evening, a collector visited a local market searching for old coins. Among a pile of ordinary change, something caught his eye. A worn 1977 penny. At first glance, it looked insignificant. But the collector picked it up, turned it under the light, and smiled. He wasn't looking at a simple coin. He was looking at a survivor. A witness to decades of history. A small piece of metal that had traveled through time. The collector carefully placed the penny into his collection. For the first time in decades, the coin would no longer be spent. Its traveling days were over. Or so it seemed. Because every collector knows something special about old coins. They never stop telling stories. Each scratch is a memory. Each mark is evidence of a journey. Each year on the date is a doorway to the past. Today, when someone holds a 1977 Lincoln penny, they are holding more than a coin. They are holding a piece of history. A silent traveler that survived countless adventures. A witness to changing generations. A survivor of time itself. And perhaps somewhere, hidden inside that worn copper surface, there are still secrets waiting to be discovered. The journey began in 1977. The story continues today. And the next chapter may belong to the person holding the coin right now.